Here we are. Yay. Okay. Little music. Oh, I see you're trying to. Okay. 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 So we're on live right now,
Uh,
and we'll wait for the feed since we're early.
okay.
Um, yay. So I'm trying to get real professional. And this is moving toward in that direction. And
Yes, it
so,
is.
yes, so side by side is much better than on top of one another. But
Okay.
we're a few minutes early, so people will see and they'll come on in. And
Okay.
so I'm thankful for you to be here again. You worked from home today, you said?
I work from home today. Yes.
See,
So it's a
folks, what'd you say?
pretty, not chill, but certainly not as intense day.
Right. And I think that that's really probably what you need for your
Right.
R&R and to kind of relax your mind when it comes to your overall well-being and providing
Oh,
service.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I had an intense Saturday. First time ever attending a protest, and that was pretty emotional. It I can't even describe all of the emotions, but yeah, that was the first time I'd ever
Gone to a
engaged
protest.
in a protest. Yeah.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for joining us. Bev, my cousin Shirley. We have people that are coming in. I know we're a few minutes early, which is good, so that people can start joining us.
Hmm.
Um, we thank you, ladies, for coming aboard. The protests are real. I've never protested anything, but if I was able to do it, I would have probably done it. But
Yeah.
here, I mean, so we're preparing to introduce everyone again to Dr. Angel Schaffer, MD. And as we, like I said, we've got a couple minutes before everybody really starts joining us. But I'm appreciative tonight that she would want to participate in this conversation again about wellness, mental health, and its overall wellness and what it does for us when we're healthy in our mind, body, and soul. So I appreciate that. I'm excited because we don't have a lot of conversations like this that are ongoing. We have people talk about it when it's May, when it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but we never
Right.
have people really continually have a dialogue unless you're going privately to your psychiatrist or psychologist or your therapist. So we don't
Right.
have this type of platform really where we can talk about it every week and keep it before the people's faces. Because what
Mm.
it does is it stimulates your mind to where you say, you know what, I do have some challenges and I do need to have that addressed. So tonight we're just blessed to, like I said, to have this wonderful woman that not only is a doctor, but is a godly woman. And I
Mm.
have the pleasure of knowing her in that capacity before I ever knew she was a doctor. So,
Right.
so I love it because that's what it's about. It's about our spiritual life, and then all those things that come with it, they just fall right in place. So
Right.
we appreciate everyone tonight. We've got just a couple minutes there on the West Coast. And of course, I'm here on the East Coast, which people go to bed really early here. So we're blessed to have you guys on. Um, Right. So, like I said, we're just giving everybody a few minutes to come aboard. Any questions, Beverly or Shirley? You guys can type them in. You know that as people are joining us, you guys can type in and ask me something. And if it, time permits, then I will definitely ask Dr. Schaffer. This is more than what I feel blessed to be able. Hi, Drew. How are you, Sarah, in St. Louis, in the medical profession as well? Thank you for joining us from St. Louis. So we're looking forward to just having a great time tonight. I say great because when two women can sit down and talk about things that are dear and near to their heart, I think that's so vitally important. And as Dr. Shaper being a medical doctor, and me as a behavioral therapist, those are the common denominators in terms of we're providing a service for a people, and that's in the medical profession. And so when we do that type of work, things mean more to us. Um, and it's very important that we engage people in not only just a conversation, but that they are able to get what they need in terms of whatever type of physical, mental, emotional health challenges they might be experiencing. So tonight, I'm just saying yay for the doctors, the frontliners. Dr. Schaefer just said earlier that she was at a protest this week, and it was very emotional, and we'll talk more about that tonight. But I just want to say thank you all once again for joining us. We have the beautiful Dr. Angel Schaefer, MD, who is a family practice medical doctor who is affiliated with Kaiser Permanente in the California area. And so this lady has a wonderful resume, which, it's a long list of accolades that she has been blessed to achieve. But one of the things that I was really excited about is that she is an advocate for women from violent domestic abuse to other, women that are struggling in any capacity, but she is, of course, concerned about the people that are of color that have challenges, medical challenges. She is empowering people. She's speaking across the country, but not only that, I love that she was able to take her daughter, her oldest daughter, to Africa. And I remember when they went, and she is a part of a team there that was providing service for the children that were orphaned due to their parents um, having passed away from AIDS. And that's a big epidemic that was over there. So, good evening, my sister. Thank you so much for joining us. So tonight we want to welcome you. And at this point in our conversation, I think when we left off last time, I was asking you a lot of questions. But right now, Dr. Schaefer, there's trauma at an unprecedented level that is taking place as we speak. And that is not only just from COVID-19, but now from the riots, the looting, all of the things that have taken place. Share with us what you feel is necessary for people right now because of the level of trauma that they're experiencing.
Um, to speak about it, to share. That's so vital. First, just to disclose, a disclosure, I am not a psychiatrist. I do not specialize in psychiatry and mental health. I am a family physician by trade. However, throughout my life, I have personally experienced areas where mental health and mental illness played a role. And I've also seen the connection with, in my family as well as in my medical practice, the connection with mental health and physical health. So I can't give specific advice in terms of mental health, and that's under the umbrella of psychiatry, but I can give you my experiences and what I feel that my opinion on it. So certainly also, if anyone is ever in need of medical care or if they have specific questions, always, always, always consult your medical providers. I'm here to share some information, but ultimately, always consult your medical provider for care. But in terms of trauma, oh, there's so much that's a loaded word. Short word, not many words, letters that's in that word, but it's loaded with so many things. In terms of what I've seen with trauma, I've seen it just as I stated that there's a lot of mental health crises, health, um, lack of a better word, not wellness, throughout my life, and trauma played a major role in that, of which, I call it the triple threat of growing up. I grew up, in a not a yeah as a disadvantaged minority. Grew up in a home of domestic violence. Grew up in a home with um, substance abuse, and I grew up in a home with mental illness, all in one household, that went on for decades, for many years, at least 20 plus years that went on. So certainly I know a little bit about trauma and what it does. And then in my practice, I saw the correlations of what I saw in my own family and what I see in my medical practice. And trauma plays a significant role in our physical well-being. So in terms of trauma, I would say the first thing that needs to be done when there's a traumatic experience is to take a pause and try to deal with it and not just go past it, ignore it, try to sweep it underneath the rug, or just say, I'm too blessed to be stressed. I'm over it. I'm not claiming it. And then you go on to the next phase without actually dealing with that trauma. Because what it does is one, it affects your physical health, and two, it sets you up for that next traumatic experience. Because the one thing that I've told my patients and I've told my kids is, life is not Disneyland. You're going to have those areas or those times in your life where there's going to be stress or some type of trauma. You will not have a year-round Disneyland pass for the rest of your life. So that's always going to evolve, and you have to start learning some tools to deal with trauma just in general, because once you get over one trauma, you can have months, weeks, years of no trauma, and then something else hits. So I think it's really important to first deal with and acknowledge that trauma that you've experienced. And not only acknowledge it, but share it, and share it with the people that you trust and feel that can help you.
So, what are some of the tools that you might suggest to one that has experienced, or what some of the tools you utilized for you? Because what you just laid out before the audience and saying that you experienced a lot of different things as a child growing up in your youth. So, how were you able to combat those things and then go on to medical school? Because that's a huge feat, for you as a young African American woman.
Well, in retrospect, I think as a child, and people used to laugh at me. They called me sort of that flower child. I tend to, how do I describe it? I loved old movies, so classic movies, which were the musicals. So I engaged in dancing and singing, going along with those classic movies where everyone loved each other. Although I didn't see people that looked like me, but that was my goal, is to have a happy life like that. So I sort of initially, I see that had to have been probably one of my coping mechanisms. Right. Is that I went to a space, at least in my mind, a peaceful space where that seemed to soothe me, where if I could hear my father abusing my mother, I could turn on Doris Day and Freddie Stair, and they're singing and dancing and they're happy. And I was able to zoom in on that and not hear the abuse that was going on. So
Wow.
looking back in retrospect, those were things that I used as a coping mechanism. I looked back and found some old journals. And back then, I don't think it was called journals. It may have been, what is that called? Scrapbooks. So
Okay.
I have old scrapbooks where I see that I would take quotes and back at, during that time there was you would have magazines and you cut photos out. So I would cut photos out of the mountains and the oceans and sunsets, and I would put them in scrapbooks and write something. Didn't know it then, but those were actually things that help me to cope. So I think finding something that will give you that peace is important. And then also speaking about it, not holding that in, because that can be very detrimental. And that was something that I didn't do because growing up, I didn't really voice what was going on. My immediate family knew what was going on, but I didn't share what was going on at home at school.
So one of the things that and this kind of is where we're at, I feel, as a country, is that there's so many dynamics happening in homes right now. I mean, we talked about this the last time we were together, is a lot of the COVID-19 flushed everybody into the home, isolated. And so you see the dynamics of what you're describing are currently taking, I mean, I can say that confidently, are currently taking place in homes around America, around the globe, where there's abuse, where there's verbal, where the
Right,
kids had an escape at school or friends.
right,
Now all
right,
of that has been disrupted.
right.
So when
And
we're
you know,
talking, go ahead.
yeah, that was my biggest fear. The day that it was announced that we were going on lockdown, my mind, for some reason, now that I'm thinking about it, because I knew what that looked like, my mind was these kids are not going to have an outlet,
Right,
because school can be an outlet for some of these kids, and they
correct.
no longer have it. Absolutely.
Right. And I think that what I'm seeing, and this kind of brings me to the next question is why is it, and this is what I'm seeing even with what I do, is why is it that we people of color, African American community, are not willing to get the help, even when it is put out there for us, someone like yourself or myself? Why are we not getting the help we need?
Oh, I think that's multifactorial.
Right.
I think one of the main things is there is a negative stigma attached to mental illness or mental issues or mental problems or emotional instability. There's a negative stigma. I think I mentioned before. My own daughter has said, "Oh, she or he is being bipolar in a negative way."
Mm,
And I certainly hadn't taught her that. So she had to have learned that, I'm assuming from peers, of which people loosely use terms that end up being something that's derogatory and
right.
negative that they don't want to be a part of. So there's this negative stigma attached to having some type of emotional problem in general. So then you're being labeled as bipolar, you're being labeled as crazy. When we all, I tell my patients when I'm trying to counsel them and sometimes convince them to actually seek help is I've had my moments. We've all had those quote unquote crazy moments because life is not Disneyland. So we're going to at some point, multiple times, hit a brick wall. And it shouldn't be labeled as bipolar, crazy, because what that does is it shuts them down, where they become silent because then they become ashamed because they don't want to be labeled. So that's one issue. And then I call medicine, what I found when I initially started my practice was I call it defensive medicine,
Mm,
where I feel like I'm always having to defend my advice and my care to patients because there's such a distrust, especially in the African American community, of the medical profession, where they have felt that, and rightfully so, historically so, which we're now seeing now, also in our justice system, not now, but we have this situation now, that there's disparities, and there's a reason for it, because historically we have not been treated justly, right, even in the healthcare system. So they come in oftentimes with a lack of trust. So sometimes it takes me a while to build a trust with the patient before I even get them to adhere to what I'm trying to assist them with doing, improving their health. So the distrust of the medical profession. So oftentimes what I would hear when I even suggest that a patient sees a therapist or attend counseling is they don't want anyone to know their business. They don't trust that they have their best interest at mind, or all they're going to do is give me drugs and pills, and they're trying to kill me with the drugs. So that distrust in the medical profession is similar to the distrust that we're seeing in our criminal justice system as well.
Wow. So what can we do? So I at the top of the hour, before people started joining us, I shared that there's not a lot of conversation on a regular basis about mental health, and that needs to be in our faces more. May is mental health awareness month, which we talked about. And so what do you suggest that we can do? Like you said, the trust factor is key in our community, because we have been poorly treated across the board in so many, and especially in our more poverty stricken neighborhoods. So what do you think we can do to make this where it gets better for them, that they can feel like, I know that there's something and I do need to get some help? What do you think we can do to help this and draw it closer in, because it's way out there and people are not coming to get the help that they need?
Yeah. I think I'm constantly talking about it, platforms such as yours. I'm even seeing, which I was so impressed with, we are now social media driven.
Right.
And what I've seen, especially on Instagram now, is that there are so many platforms and therapists and groups that are advocating for mental health. There's one that I saw, that Black Girls Do Therapy, Black Girls Love Therapy. So I'm seeing more of a commitment to daily posting on mental health, even when it's not the month of May. So I think social media is important, and forming those groups, because that can be a safe space for individuals when they see that it's a specific group that are advocating for mental health.
So that's one. But so let's talk about the millions of our seniors, because I'm there, that are not on social media.
Mm.
A lot of them are alone. So what can we do to assist them? We're talking those that are over 65 and older, and they are suffering. A lot of them are suffering. So what
Right.
can we do there?
So I would at least hope, even if they're living alone, that there's some family member, whether it's a grandchild, a child, a niece, a nephew, a cousin, someone, or a neighbor, someone that's in their circle that can check in on them and ask the questions. How are you doing emotionally? And not only that, what I have found, especially with my elderly patients, those who, now when I say elderly, I'm not really talking about the 65. I'm talking about the 75 and above.
Okay.
Which I have a large group of that population as well. So what begins to happen there is their health is declining more.
Right.
They have fear. There's fear of dying, because the likelihood of them living an additional 75 plus 80 years is extremely low.
Right.
So they've lived more than half of their lives. So there's a fear of dying. But more even importantly than that is the fear of losing independence. And I see a lot of that is they begin to lose independence. And then you have the adult children who are coming in and trying what they're perceiving as taking over and taking their independence away from them.
Right.
So I think it's important to continuously engage them and ask the questions. Not only how are you, but to really look at their body language and listen to what the clues that they may give you. So some of the clues can be that they're no longer want to go out and go grocery shopping with you any longer, that they're no longer taking care of themselves in terms of combing their hair and bathing. They're no longer getting out of the bed as often. Those can be clues that there may be some emotional decompensation that's occurring. So looking for clues, they may not verbalize it, but just looking for those types of clues, which then can prompt you to possibly ask the questions or take them to their medical provider to assess them.
Awesome. So I want to, this is about just you as a medical doctor, but I want you to fill in the blank for me. I am my brother's keeper because.
I am my brother's keeper because I think you asked this question before, and that's one of those darts to the heart for me. I'm a good dart because my brother is my heart. And my story is that my brother was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 15 after he discovered that my mother was dead in her bed. And so within a year of her death, that traumatic experience and his inability to cope with that, I think really was that major event that tipped him over. And that's quite common for individuals with major mental illnesses. So there's 3 major mental illnesses. And again, I'm not a psychiatrist, right, but just from my medical knowledge, but there's 3, what they consider 3 major medical illnesses. Schizophrenia is 1, bipolar is 2nd, and major depression is 3rd. Yeah. So those are the major mental illnesses that often require medication as well as therapy to treat them. When he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, I was in my first, I went back to medical school. So that was my repeat first year of medical school because I had dropped out of medical school my first year when my mother died a few months into my starting medical school. So I went into my repeat first year of medical school with him being diagnosed with schizophrenia. And it was quite a journey. Initially, I was in complete, I think, denial, where I was just thinking that, oh, this is just because my mother died. And I know that had a lot to do with it. But I tried to pray it out of him, where I was constantly calling my pastor. I was tape recording his conversations where he would speak and gerbil sentences that didn't quite make sense, where it would certainly point out his paranoia. And so I would just sit there and tape it and then give it to my pastor as if he had all the answers. And I'm certainly glad that he let me know that I needed to seek medical attention as well, even though I was in medical school and I had a family history of mental illness because my mother was also diagnosed with schizophrenia when she was actually pregnant with him. Really? Although I think she was misdiagnosed because just with my medical knowledge and my experience with my brother, they didn't have the same symptoms. I think she definitely had major depression, which partly the domestic violence that she endured for so many years, I know had a lot to do with it. So she was diagnosed with schizophrenia, where they said she had a nervous breakdown. when she was pregnant with him. And she was hospitalized in a mental hospital. And because she was pregnant at the time, they said the safest thing for her to do for treatment was to treat her with electric convulsive shock treatments called ECT, where they literally put electrodes and shocked her brain to pull her out of her I don't know, mania, depression, whatever they said it was at the time. I was 11 at the time, so I don't quite know all of the terms that they use, but I remember being at that meeting at 11 years old with the psychiatrist who was trying to explain to my family what they were going to do with her. So
Wow.
certainly I have a strong family history of mental illness and experiences of mental illness. So yeah, so my brother's keeper for me literally meant that, especially after my mother died. I had promised her, she had asked me if I would take care of and watch out for my siblings, which was my brother and sister. Funny story, between myself and my two siblings, we're all 11 years apart.
Really?
So I'm 11 years older than my brother and 22 years older than my sister. So when my mother died, I became the mother. So literally, I was my brother's keeper. But I just had a really compassion and just that maternal instinct to protect him, especially because of his mental illness and the lack of treatment that we received often. I mean, it has been a journey to find proper care for him. For it's now been close to 30 years now that I've been involved with his care, and it's been quite a journey. Very difficult. The mental health system is I think it's worse than any other medical system because of the lack of funding. Oftentimes the misunderstanding, the misdiagnosis, even the side effects of the medications can be horrific for patients, so they tend not to stay on their medicine. And I would have to guess, and with some of the literature that I've read, that many of the homeless people, our homeless population, are mentally ill. So it's just, I am my brother's keeper, but I am my keeper of anyone who has a mental illness, because I certainly have seen how it can challenge a family, how it can devastate a family.
Well, as we're closing out, I just want to say that story is just incredible because you have firsthand knowledge. It's not like you have heard, your friend's mother. This has been directly impacted you as a woman and as a professional. And I brought that up last time because the story was fascinating, and you had shared it before. A lot of our viewers had said they were just intrigued by the fact that you have taken care of your brother, who is doing very well, as you said, and that's exciting because that you fought for him and his journey, and he's doing well. But in closing, what would you define, or what does wellness really mean to you? What does it mean?
Well, wellness changes because it's based, I think, on your current state. Meaning, well, wellness is based on that particular situation at that time. That oftentimes, so when I'm saying that particular situation, that stressful situation,
Right.
because that's when we really start to emphasize and seek wellness, is at the time where there's either some type of stressful situation or traumatic experience. So wellness is trying to find that peace in that storm.
Wow.
And that changes because the situations will change. So for me, wellness would mean is finding that inner peace to allow you to manage the stress or to get through that traumatic experience or that time.
And right now, do you feel you're in a peaceful place in your life, considering everything that's going on around you?
Woo, that changes day to day.
Yes.
Because there's some days, especially lately for the past since May 25th, I have been glued to the television. Probably not so healthy because of the news and the images that I've seen, that it has certainly heightened my stress on top of my daily stress of work. I'm adding additional stress by constantly being glued to the TV because I've just been so passionate of what's been occurring lately. So I say it varies from day to day. There's some days where I'm able to decompress. Well, one thing that I try to do on a daily basis is open up my Bible and get my word. And that's where I also journal and I do my reflection is through my time with God. There are some days that I don't wake up early enough and I'm not able to do that. But on those days, I'm constantly always thinking of some type of inspirational song. And most of the time it's gospel. So throughout the day, I may start humming a song just to calm my spirit and to give me that peace. So it's a battle. It could be from minute to minute to from hour to hour, week to week. So I think it's something that's constantly has to be addressed. And hopefully for most of us, we're doing that at the time that we're feeling that our feelings are escalating, that we're stressing, that we try to calm ourselves, that we tell ourselves woosah right then and there to calm our spirits and to give us that peace, which then helps our entire body, which contributes to our blood pressure goes up, our heart rate goes up, we get headaches. But if we can have that woosah moment to lower that adrenaline that then can lead to some of the headaches and nausea and stomach pain, then we may have less of those physical effects.
This is awesome. Dr. Schaffer, we so appreciate you. I mean, this is a blessing to just have you not only once but twice, and that is the part of this is really important for me is that we get people talking more as you shared. So we thank you tonight so much, our viewing audience. We appreciate you coming aboard. We will definitely keep a pulse on you and all the exciting things you're doing for the community there in Los Angeles. And listen, this lady, if you ever want to know who Dr. Schaffer is, you can go to California if you don't live there, and we'll find her for you. Listen, we love you. Thank you so much.
Love you. Thank
and
you.
We appreciate you and Godspeed.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, sister.
Take care. We thank you all tonight for being with us for Wellness Monday. Come aboard again. Next week, we'll have Arian Raekwon Simmons. He will be our guest, a young African American nurse. And we are excited, male nurse, and we're excited to have him. So you all have a great week. Please do what she said. Woosah. Pray. And stay out of as much stress as possible. God bless you. Have a good night, everybody.
God bless. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Thank you, Jesus.